everyone and welcome to the Learning Ladder. I thought I'd do a little chatty vlog type video with you today. I'm actually doing some homeschool planning, so I thought we could do that whilst I chat about the topic of my video. So currently it is the evening. It is storming really bad outside, so you may or may not hear really bad wind in the background. So it's a very interesting night indeed weather-wise. So I am currently working on school for next year, so for the 2019-2020 school year. I am currently doing work on the Passport to Adventures course, which I purchased from Jessica at the Waldock Way, and that basically is enrichment for us, so fun enrichment, and she uses the Magic Treehouse books as a basis for further study. They're such wonderful books. I'm just going to move the computer because I keep knocking you. There we go. Such wonderful books, and so many very different topics, from history to animals. There's so many different topics within the series. And basically how she's created the curriculum is you read the book, and then she has given you additional books that you can read as well, and also different crafts and extension activities that you can do along with the book for each of the specific units, and it sounds amazing. I'm really looking forward to doing it next year. Well, this year, next school year I meant. So I am currently putting all the books that she recommends in addition to the Magic Treehouse book into a Amazon wish list, and then what I will do is go through budgeting and determine which additional resources I want to purchase. So that's what I'm currently doing, making an Amazon wish list. So while we're doing that, I thought we'd talk quickly, well it probably won't be quickly, but talk briefly as I can really about what's happening with home education in the UK currently. And it's not just the UK, I know it's happening in the US as well. So if you don't know, I'll just give you a quick brief overview. Last year, a Labour peer who is a Lord in the House of Lords, which is unelected, I just need to get that in there somewhere, an unelected house, and he brought about a private member's bill regarding home education. Now, the summary of the bill states, to make provision for local authorities to monitor the educational, physical and emotional development of children receiving elective home education and for connected purposes. So that's basically the summary of his little bill. That has passed through the House of Lords and is currently in the House of Commons. It's awaiting its second reading, I believe. Yes, the second reading is coming up soon in the House of Commons. The first reading, there was no debate, so the second reading is actually next week. So basically, as you can see, he feels there's an issue with the way home education is monitored currently at the moment, and he has a vast array of changes that he feels need to be implemented. Now, on the back of that, the Department for Education brought about a consultation last year for people to, different areas of society, so parents, local authorities, teachers, anyone really could comment as part of the consultation on home education. There was a range of questions that they asked specifically to the consultation, and then also there was a section where you could address certain points yourself if you so desired. So all of this is currently underway at the moment, and I just thought I'd share my thoughts on it really, whilst I'm doing some, well, not purchasing but wish list shopping. So my thoughts, okay, I just want to preface this by saying I do not speak for home education. I do not speak for any kind of organisation. I am not the voice of home education. This is just my thoughts, my opinion, and I really want to make that clear because I do not want anyone to think that I am speaking on their behalf, because I'm not. I'm just talking about my family and my thoughts on this subject individually. So, why is that not there? Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear before we commence with this little chat. I am just looking for a specific book. Sabretooth and the Ice Age. There we go. Sunset of the Sabretooth is the Magic Treehouse book. I'm actually looking for, let's just click on this and see what that is. Okay, it's the companion, right. Okay. She uses Amazon US, so if I click on the links it takes me to the Amazon US website, so I have to find it in the UK version, obviously. Although you can purchase from Amazon US, and I have done it quite a few times, but if I can get it from the UK, obviously I would prefer to do so because I wouldn't have to pay postage because I have Amazon Prime, and it wouldn't take as long to get here. Although, interestingly enough, I have actually ordered things from the Amazon UK and from the Amazon US, and they've actually arrived from Amazon US faster than they have from the UK. So there you go. Anyway, completely getting off track. So what do I think about this consultation, and what do I think the future of home education in the UK is? I feel like the consultation and Lord Solly, his views are very biased. They do not represent to me what home education is. I also don't think they're coming necessarily from a good place. I know he has had issues with home education for a very long time. I can't speak as to why he is so negative towards it, but I have watched and heard various members in the House of Lords discuss the subject, and it was shocking, to be honest. Not in respect of, that's probably what they would say, but in the respect of they had no idea what home education is, why people choose to home educate. It was so negative. It was just terrible to watch in terms of thinking about that those people are trying to dictate the future for my child when they have no clue what home education is. So the reason I say that is because part of the justification, if you like, for the reasoning behind him bringing up his bill in the first place is because three things really. Home education is increasing, according to him. There are schools that are off-rolling pupils. That number is dramatically increasing. And there are also illegal schools. And again, that number is increasing. But that's basically the three reasons why he's bringing about his bill, because of those three facts, as he so implies. Now, the first fact, I'll say that home education is increasing. Maybe it is. But just because home education is increasing, it doesn't mean that children who are home educated are in more danger from physical or emotional stunting of development, that they need to be monitored. There is no difference between a child being educated at home and a child going to school in terms of their welfare. No difference whatsoever. There are no studies that show children that are home educated are in any greater risk from harm than children who are educated at school. Now, if you think about whether children are happy to be home educated or happy to be at school, if a child is in school and they say they're unhappy with being in school, are you then going to say, okay, we'll take you out of school then? Unlikely. So the fact that you're wanting to assess the emotional development of children that are home educated, yet not asking the same question of children who are publicly schooled educated or privately educated in a school. Okay, so that's one issue that I have. The other issues that I have are with regards to off-rolling. Off-rolling is not elective home education. It isn't. Off-rolling is a school saying to your parent, for whatever reason, your child is not a good fit for our school. Therefore, have you thought about home educating? That is not elective home education. That is exclusion dressed up. No parent should be told that they have to home educate their child because they do not fit in with the school. It should be the parent's choice to do that naturally themselves, because home education is a huge commitment. Look at me now, I'm getting everything ready for our curriculum, it's something that you have to want to do. And if you don't want to do it, or if you're forced into it, yes, it may work out in the long run that it was successful, but it's not, you're not coming from the best place to start with. So no parent should be faced with the choice of the school saying to them, you need to home educate your child, otherwise we are going to exclude them. Because in theory they are excluding them anyway, they're just dressing it up so it doesn't look so bad. But you've also got to think about why children are having issues in school, that they are in that situation in the first place, and none of what Lord Soley is doing in terms of his bill is actually going to resolve any of those issues, because they are absolutely nothing to do with elective home education whatsoever. They are to do with society putting people in boxes, and people don't naturally necessarily fit in boxes. Everyone's different, and it's okay to be different. And over the course of history, you'll see that those boxes have moved around. So one minute it's okay to be this, then it's not, then it's okay again, but now it's not okay to be something else. So the boxes move in terms of how people's gender or political affiliation or just, you know, their thoughts in general, which is unfair to begin with. But let's just say that not everybody is academically minded, and that's okay. It's okay that you could be go into a different profession than somebody else, and school doesn't necessarily always assist with that, because there's 35 plus kids in the classroom. Parents send their children hoping for the best, but at the end of the day, if there's 35 children in a classroom, how likely is it that the teacher is going to be able to meet the needs of someone who is having difficulties fitting in to the norm of what society expects us to in terms of education? Then they're going to have great difficulty. So you're setting them up for a fall to begin with. If you think about the generational issues that we have with people living on benefits, generational, you know, the generational circle of people living on benefits from the same family. If you think about long-term unemployment of people, if you think about teenagers who are just joining gangs and everything else because they don't feel like they fit in, they don't feel like they have a place. And a lot of that you could put it down to the fact that the education system fails them, not because there's something wrong with them, but just because they don't fit into that box. There's something that's different about them than, say, everybody else in the classroom, and you set them up for a fall by trying to force them to be something that they're not. It'd be so much better if you could say to that particular child, right, okay, what is it in the world that you are interested in? What is it that you like? What are you passionate about? And then tailor that education to them. And that is why home education is amazing, because you have the right, for one, and the ability to say to your child, what is it that you love? What is it that you feel passionate about? And I will go and find resources that will help you develop in that area. And obviously, yes, they'll have to do the basics, you know, the reading, writing, arithmetic, but you can tailor that even more so to their passion as well. So for example, if there's somebody who wants to, I don't know, build things, they want to be a builder, then you can bring in the reading, writing and arithmetic into the building, into their profession that they're interested in. It doesn't have to be algebra. It doesn't have to be completely off the charts, nothing to do with what they want to do in their future. You know, you can talk about measurements in terms of what they would need to make a compound or a formula in terms of what they would need to build a house. You can make it so that you can tailor it so that what they're interested in terms of what makes them passionate, what makes them excited, is what you can provide them from an educational point of view. And I think the sooner we realise that schools fail children, not because they intend to, not because that's the agenda, but just because of the nature of the beast, the nature of the fact that you are never going to be able to meet the needs of 35 plus children in a classroom that are completely different. Some will be the same, you'll be fine with them. They're in that box, they're okay. Some, middle of the road. You could do so much more for them, but they'll get by. You know, they'll pass their exams just about. Then there's the ones that are really struggling, and you could change their lives completely just thinking out of the box and saying, right, it's okay, you're different, that's fine, we can help you, we can find what you love, we can make you a valuable member of society, rather than you joining a gang and getting stabbed, or rather than you becoming a terrorist, or rather than you going to prison, or rather than you being on benefits the rest of your life. We can find something from that early age that you love, and we can steer you in that direction. And if your direction changes, that's fine. We can find something that you really love and feel passionate about, because when someone loves something and when someone's passionate about something, there's a vast difference in terms of their attitude, in terms of their reaction and their response to you asking them to do something. And from an educational point of view, if you're asking them to sit down at a desk and read off a board and copy it onto paper, or do sums, there is nothing related to what they see and what they think is important to them. You're setting them up for failure. And yes, you could argue, well, you can't mollycoddle people. You've got to, they've got to work in life, and they may not always like what they do, and that is true. But at that age is the time to figure out what it is that you like and be able to realise that the dream, realise your potential, and that is the time to do that. So the fact that you're basically trying to put everyone into the box in school, in traditional school, and yet saying that you're doing it for their emotional and physical and well-being is completely untrue. You're not whatsoever. Okay, so let me do some work, because I'm not going to get anything done if I'm just looking at you the whole time. Okay, so prehistoric mammals. So what was the Ice Age? Did I put that in? No, right, okay. And what was the Ice Age? I really like the What Was books. And I love the fact that she has incorporated them into her curriculum. Okay, what was the Ice Age? I think I may already have that on my list, but I think Amazon doesn't let you duplicate them if you already do. So that's fine. Okay, so we talked about off-rolling. But to me, off-rolling is not home education whatsoever. Okay, so if we take out that group from home education, put them somewhere else, because that is not home education, it's not elective home education, it's exclusion dressed up with a fancy bow. Okay, now illegal schools, that is not home education. It's a criminal act, it is not home education. So if we take that out of the box, what is it that you have a problem with? The numbers of people that are home educating their children rising? Well, that could be down to those other two reasons. They're not actually home educating, they're being off-rolled, which is exclusion, and they are joining illegal schools. Again, that is not home education. It is not home education. There are other means that you can pursue said individuals. So if you're thinking about the fact that they're using a building that isn't fit for purpose, it's not a school. There's laws against that. Why do you need to attack people who are making a wise, sound, educational decision that is their choice and their child's choice, and saying that they need to be monitored because they're doing something that's terrible? They are guilty without even assuming innocence, because that's basically what you're saying. If you're saying home educated children need to be monitored for physical and emotional abuse or development, then you're saying that the parent is immediately guilty of those things without any kind of proof, without any grounds whatsoever. And as far as I was always aware, we're innocent until proven guilty. So why are you assuming that anyone who chooses to home educate is terrible, a terrible person? So the reason I make that point, and it sounds quite dramatic, but it's because this could have been done so differently. and so much more in a way that you would actually get or achieve your desire, and that is, according to Lord Soley, to monitor children's emotional and physical development. What you could have done is you could have said, okay, you're home educating, that's great, we support you in your decision to home educate, and we'll show you how we support you in your decision to home educate. We'll provide vouchers, we'll provide discounts on educational products that you can access for your child. Okay, we will enable you to join activities at the school. For example, when the children go to their swimming lessons in school, you're more than welcome to come along too. When they go on school trips, you can bring your child along to the school trip with the rest of the children. So you could get the outcome of what you wanted to achieve in terms of monitoring, but in a manner that isn't immediately setting people on defensive. You're immediately not upsetting people and making them feel like that they're somehow being convicted of a crime that they haven't even committed. Yet, at the same time, you're providing opportunities for the children. So you're enabling them to do swimming lessons if they perhaps can't do that, in the home environment because they've been excluded from school and the parents weren't in the financial position to electively home educate them. So therefore, they are perhaps maybe in need of some extracurricular activities because you've deprived them of everything by forcing their parents to electively home educate when they weren't in a position to do so. You could provide STEM opportunities. You could provide exam opportunities. But currently, if you want to sit exams as an independent candidate, as you are if you're home educated, you have to pay. So you could immediately remove that. You could say there's no charge for a child at 16 to complete their exams. It's free. There's so many different ways you could have assisted home educators in a positive way and achieved what you wanted to achieve in terms of monitoring their development, their physical and emotional development. You could have provided national trust discounts. There's so many different ways that you could have gone about it instead of saying, right, you home educate. You're evil, you're terrible, your children need to be monitored because you're doing something really bad. When in actual fact, what you're most likely to find if you actually speak to home educators are that they're intelligent, articulate people who have made a sound judgment on the basis of what their child needs, what their circumstances are. You'll find that they are the most dedicated educational professional that will go above and beyond what you would find in a normal school because it's their child. They have a vested interest in their child's future, so they'll go above and beyond what a normal teacher would to tailor the course to their child, to help them grow as into an adult that would be a productive member of society because it's in their best interest. It's their child. They want the best for their child. But you have immediately put people on the defensive, you've made people frightened, you have put completely ridiculous information out there that is so untrue. And I watched a recent documentary which was just funny, that was commissioned, I don't know if it was actually commissioned, but it was the children's commissioner who was actually leading the documentary. So she's biased anyway because she is completely against home education. And she was interviewing parents who had electively home educated, but I say that very lightly because there was only one that had actually, I think you could potentially say they fall into that category. The others were people who had been off-rolled. Again, off-rolling is not elective home education. People whose children had great difficulties in school, so the parents had decided to home educate them. And she, during her interview process, she was expressing complete disbelief, and she was expressing such distress to see these children in the positions that they were in, yeah, if you actually picked it apart, if you actually listened to what the children were saying, there was one particular family where the mother, her child was off-rolled basically, and the mother was dyslexic, and she was saying that she just wanted someone to help with reading and English language skills with her child. Again, in a positive way, you could have gone about it that way. But anyway, let's go back to the story. And the whole response from her was, I'm terrified. This is the commissioner, the children's commissioner. I'm terrified for his future and what's going to happen to him. But if you actually listened to what the child said, he said, I think he was about 10 or 11, he said, I've been to school all this time and I've learnt to tell the time just in these few weeks whilst being at home with my mum. His mum had taught him how to tell the time, and in the 10 years, well, it wasn't 10 years obviously, but in the amount of time that he had been to school, he had never learned how to tell the time. So I'll leave you with that thought. I'm not going to say anything more on that, but he learnt to tell the time in this short amount of time that he was at home with his mother, with her teaching him, than he had ever learnt whilst he was at school. School doesn't work for everybody. There are other options, and there should be other options, and the fact that Lord Solway and all his cronies are trying to take that away or limit that or completely destroy the faith in people who view home education as something that's dangerous and toxic is so upsetting and very, very concerning in terms of what the future lies for home education. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not knocking teachers. I think they do a wonderful job with the situation they're in. Not all teachers, but some. The majority. But you can't tailor resources. One, when you're following a specific set curriculum. One, when you are given targets to meet, league tables, Ofsted reports. You can't tailor education to each individual member of your group in your class when they all have different learning styles. You can't, it's just not, it's not easy to do that whatsoever. And if you are sitting here as someone who is very anti-home education, claiming that the school system is perfect or that the school system does meet the needs of children, then I would urge you to go and interview children who are actually in schools. I'm talking about the children who are struggling. I'm talking about the children who have additional needs. I'm talking about interviewing those children who have completely given up on school whatsoever and are joining a gang. See whether they thought their education in school met their needs and whether their physical and emotional development was taken into consideration. Interesting. But I don't know what the future holds. You're upsetting families who have done nothing wrong whatsoever. One of the stories in that programme, the documentary I mentioned before about home educated children, said that she had been referred to social services and she had waited a year under the fear that her children were going to be taken away from her, all because she'd chosen to home educate. She had issues with the public school and she hadn't been able to send her children there because they were not happy and they refused to go. And because of that, social services had got involved and they'd made her do all kinds of parenting classes, put her through the ringer basically, when she had done nothing wrong whatsoever. She was not abusive to her children, she had not damaged them in any way. She was just listening to them and then saying, Mum, I can't do this, I'm having problems, please help me. And she was meeting the needs of her children as any parent would, and yet she had been referred to social services and spent a year of her life terrified that her children were going to be taken away from her, all because she decided to home educate. And then at the end of the documentary, you saw social services ringing her and saying, we're sorry, you should never have been referred to us in the first place. We're taking you off our files and you will not hear from us again, unless obviously there's a concern. A whole year of her life, and that was just horrific. And that's what worries me, is that the motive behind it is from a negative point of view to start off with, and you don't have the best interests of the children at heart, because if you had, you wouldn't have put them, that family, through that for a whole year. So that's what concerns me. But what will be will be, won't it? At the end of the day, we don't really have the power to change. You can change government, but you can't change anything to do with the House of Lords, because you can't elect them. You're kind of stuck, basically. All you can do is do the best for your family, do the best for your children, make sure that you're meeting all their needs from a physical and emotional point of view. And I say that not because I think it's funny, or because I'm making fun of what he's trying to do, because obviously there would be cases of children potentially that aren't having their needs met, but that might not necessarily be because they're home educated. That could be because they're in traditional school and their parents are evil and horrible people. So you're always going to have that in society. So yes, all children should be protected, all children should be safe and happy and healthy, but you can't go from that to everyone's guilty of abusing their children, everyone's guilty of being terrible parents, without there being some kind of innocence level that we are innocent unless we're proven guilty. And that's what worries me, that there would be that line would blur more and more and more, because they are looking for reasons to say that you're doing something wrong, because they don't agree with your decisions to home educate, because they think it's wrong. And that was pretty much what they were saying in the House of Lords, that there's something wrong with people who home educate. They're not normal. That they have agendas, so terrorism, that they're grooming their children to be terrorists. And it is just the most ridiculous, ludicrous things I've ever heard, because at the end of the day, just because your child goes to school, it doesn't mean that their parents want to be terrorists. You know, are you going and interviewing every person in their home and finding out whether their parents support radical groups? No, you're not. So how can you turn around and say just because you're home educated that you're a danger to society more so than any other family that is in the world currently? You can't. And there has to be a level where you say people are innocent until proven guilty. Anyway, that's my thoughts. It's very rambly. I haven't really got much work done. Right, okay. I am going to go now. I've talked for 38 minutes. So that's my thoughts on it. Hope it was interesting for you. I'm going to finish Unit 7, getting all the books for the, what's that one called? Into my wish list. I'm going to do Unit 8 and then I'm going to go to bed. So I hope that was interesting. Let me know if you want me to do more of these little chatty updates, talking about any specific topics. And I will endeavour to do so. Take care, and I'll see you soon.